Are you Debbie Elias?
I am, Guy. How are you, old friend?
How are you, Debbie?
I'm fine. How are...
Nice to talk to you.
I am so thrilled to speak with you. I can't tell you. And before I forget, make sure you give my best to Jamie.
I will, Debbie. I will.
But I have...
Thank you so much for everything. You knew me in Skin.
Yeah. We had a lot of fun with that.
I know. So much fun.
And I got to tell you, Guy, this film, Golda, this speaks to the heart. It is an emotionally evocative film that on every level, it is meticulously done from a filmmaking standpoint, which that then just elevates the storytelling and the humanity of this woman. This is masterful. Absolutely masterful.
Thank you, Debbie. You really, you made me very, very happy just now.
I was mesmerized through the whole film, and one of the techniques that you use with this film that really pulls us in to a very sensory experience is you put us in the mind's eye of Golda, and you do that with extreme close-ups and sound. When you bring in the archival sound, 35-minute mark, the Sager missile attack, the ambush, and we're in the bunker and we're hearing, and then the camera, Jasper is moving the camera in tighter, just on Golda, and then hone in on it going ever closer into ECUs on her eyes, or when she goes into the bathroom and she's digging her fingernail into her hand because she's trying not to break in front of people, but we see the pain, and all it takes is a sound to trigger the burden that she's carrying. And this is something I have rarely, if ever, seen done with a film, and it is fantastic.
Thank you so much. Wow. I need to tell my mom about that because she will be happy hearing you.
Talk to me about, because Helen is beyond reproach in this film. She is perfection. But this is so much about your technical acumen and how you use that to tell stories. Talk to me about working with your cinematographer, with Jasper, and also with your sound designer, with Liev Schreiber, and how you develop this grammar, this visual and sonic grammar to tell this story, because it's so perfectly married. The film would not be what it is if you had not put all of this together the way you have. So I'm curious about your discussions with them to design this.
Well, look, as you know, I think I told you before, I grew up on films from the 70s, like The Conversation with Coppola, and the Coppola movie with Gene Hackman, and this movie, Blowout, with John Travolta, the Brian De Palma film, and the films that really influenced me a lot as a filmmaker. I would call that the 70s film, the paranoia films from the 70s. So because Golda couldn't really go to the front, she was an older, sick woman. I wanted to bring the war into the room rather than go outside and shoot it, in the front. Like war. We've seen war films before.
Right.
We know that. But what we didn't see much is war film without a drop of blood, that is based on sound and on drones, footage footage that she got from the front. And I wanted to emphasize how Golda was very, very lonely and isolated in this concrete jungle. And I feel that we kind of achieved that with the beautiful photography of Jasper Wolf, who made it almost like film noir, and with a beautiful design, production design by Arad Shawat, who actually, built all those structures, the Golda kitchen and all the command rooms and the bunker. He built it from scratch in London.
Oh my God!
And yeah, it's just it's Karen Hartley, the brilliant Karen Hartley, who did all the prosthetics and the special makeup. I mean, all of these guys, I was so blessed to be surrounded by talented people that could bring my vision to life.
Well, they certainly do. And I'm glad you mentioned Arad, because the production design is impeccable and it's very metaphoric, because we see Golda so often in these very closed off hallways. And it's almost like the world is closing in on her as she's trying to figure out what to do. And I love how that physically is designed. And then also Jasper, he'll start with a wide shot or a long shot and then slowly move in closer. Or with the bird in the bunker, that was chilling. I have to tell you, Guy, that's a chilling shot. Because it's almost like the bird is the canary in the coal mine. And that's what Golda is, walking in this hallway. She's still got life. As long as that bird's flying, she's still got life, and the war isn't over. But you can tell the time is approaching. It can go either way. So Arad's production design is just wonderful. But how did you go about meshing this so perfectly? And I'm sure that Arik, your editor, has a lot to do with this. The visual with the sound, with the archival sound and the dialogue, because that is so key in this film, Guy.
Thank you. I know the sound designer, Niv Adiri, who is also Israeli, he won an Oscar for Gravity. Gravity. Back then, and I really wanted to work with him for years and years, and I think that was the perfect timing to do that. And he did a masterful sound design on this movie, really going into under her skin, And by the way, I love what you say about the canary and the coal mine. It's like it's what they did. The birds, being more sensitive, would become sick before the miners, and would then have a chance to escape or put a protective, stuff on. So it's a great metaphor to what I was trying to achieve. Thank you for saying that.
This whole film is so metaphoric, Guy, and a big part of that also comes into play is your score. This is a very interesting score that Dasha has done for you. You've got orchestral, a lot of heavy on strings, bring in some flute and piccolo and some bells in certain key moments. But at times it's very ethnic. You hear the Jewish culture in certain motifs in the score. I'm curious what you were looking for musically from Dasha.
It's Dasha's mind. It's basically her brilliancy that made that happen. And I thought that I didn't give her. I just sent her some music that I adore. Again, films from the 70s, films that I find fascinating. And she had her own interpretation of what she saw, and I think she did brilliant.
Oh, I think the score is just exquisitely done. The color palette that you've chosen here is very distinctive. It's like your interiors, you've got that almost like a darker sun yellow, but then a bed table lamp is even a darker umber, but still a golden glow. It's almost equating it, again, metaphorically, to the sun is setting on Golda's life. And you carry that through, be it applying it to the war, applying it to Golda as a person, as a mother, a grandmother, a mother to her people. And then outside you go, or in the bunker, you go with the real steely grayish green palette. So I'm curious about how you chose your color design.
Well, I was influenced by this TV show Chernobyl. If you
Oh,
watched
I've
it,
seen it.
the green and the orange lighting, it contrasts with the raging fire and the whole, gripping details for the drama there. I felt that the cold patterns and then some warm ones, but eventually it felt like it's almost like it's a still very cold, harsh colors that made you feel the how everything is so I would say dire and adding to the feeling of being of this terrible war. I didn't want anything to be too warm. I wanted it to be like those corridors from The Shining, and the interior design was the color palette was consistent with the green and the orange, and it's just striking contrast between all those rooms, but it's very dire. It's very raw. I wanted to do kind of a film noirish feeling to it.
Yeah, and that really comes through on multiple levels, Guy. I know they're texting me that I need to wrap up with you, but I've got to ask you one last question. This is such a personal film about Golda Meir. And this is also because of your own life and growing up and your heritage and culture. What did it mean personally for you to tell this story?
I was a baby in the war, and my mom ran with me to the shelter, so I grew up with stories about Golda, and that's the story of my generation. Kids that were born into this war, and I feel like JFK, the movie that Oliver Stone did, happened only like 40 or 30 years after the incident, after the murder. I felt it takes a few generations after the Yom Kippur War to tell the story, because there's so many, I'd say, like it's a trauma. It's a trauma for the nation. And I felt that my generation are able to be far enough from everything to tell such a story, with the notion that these women need to get the right narrative, and not how they presented her as the only person that really was in charge of this downfall.
Well,
so I feel that it's in a way it's doing her right, and it means for me a lot as an Israeli and now as an American.
Well, you have done a brilliant job telling this story. I remember when these incidents occurred, since I am a fair amount older than you, Guy. So I remember when all of this happened. So to see this inside look from your perspective, from Nicholas Martin's perspective, is just so enlightening and so heartwarming to see unfold. But this is such a job well done, and I expect to hear Helen's name announced as an Oscar nominee next year.
Oh, I wish. Thank you so much for saying that.
Guy,
Debbie, please talk to people about this movie, write about it. We can't wait for you to write about it and make people know that you love it.
For you, I will.
Thank you so much, Debbie. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Guy, and hopefully we'll talk again sooner rather than later.
Thank you.
Thanks, Guy. Have a good night.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.